Hey everybody, it's Dr. Brockenshire. I want to give everybody a heads up on what's coming December 6th in Michigan and give you some good academic scientific background to understand legalized marijuana in Michigan. And more importantly, have some educated information to cut through a lot of the misinformation on cannabidiol, which is CBD. So you're looking at CBD right here. It's a pretty cool looking organic chemistry module. Don't have a panic attack if you took organic chemistry. Because a lot of this is a gray area, here is my professional disclaimer. And basically, we're not making any claims on something natural treating a disease. So, typical disclaimer. I would be more afraid of lettuce based on what we're told by the FDA than I would be anything made from cannabis. Simple haha. But, the lettuce scare is just comical at that, so we'll leave it be. Today's central nervous system is pretty beat up. And in that central nervous system, there's another system called the endocannabinoid system, which takes care of our brain. So if this reminds you of your kids or grandkids, you might want to pay attention. Part of the problem with the public today is you're trying to find information online from a variety of sources, and it's like sifting through a pile of gravel, looking for that one pearl that you can use. And a lot of this information is quite complex. Most of us lack the required advanced PhD background to understand what we're supposed to do with this. And so my job today is to give you kind of that advanced PhD breakdown in a way you can understand. So I've got some cool videos for you on that as well. The human nervous system is pretty complex. That's why we spend so much time working on it. But it is a beautiful system and it needs to be well fed. The number one food for your central nervous system is still going to be fish oil. The glandular system or the endocrine system requires the same attention to nutrition, but this is the system that relies on minerals. And as you know, most of our diets are deficient in minerals, so that's another reason we need to supplement. The third system, which is relatively new, is the endocannabinoid system. And this is involved with helping tissues throughout our body perceive certain things, particularly with respect to mood, memory, and pain. So there's a lot going on here, and it's pretty fantastic. We're kind of on another renaissance of medical science. But at the end of the day, this system behaves kind of like the nervous system. And it's found very concentrated in the GI tract, central nervous system, sympathetic ganglia, glands, arteries, etc. What I want to focus on is something called anandamide, and that's what our bodies make. So our bodies make a chemical that make us feel good. Unfortunately, most of us are overmaking it, and we can't just get enough. So autoimmune disease is one of the reasons we need to pay attention to this. And when we look at how we can get that chemical from nature, particularly from hemp oil or fish oil, you can understand why most of us have used it up. Now, any kind of brain injury will increase your need for these things. So the science behind the endocannabinoid system is pretty intense from a neurologic point of view.
CBD, short for cannabidiol, is a non-psychoactive compound in cannabis responsible for many of cannabis's medical benefits. On the other hand, THC, short for tetrahydrocannabinol, is the psychoactive compound in marijuana that causes the high associated with cannabis use. They are two completely separate cannabinoids, which are a class of chemical compounds that interact with special receptors in our body called cannabinoid receptors. Dr. Sanjay Gupta, an American neurosurgeon and CNN's chief medical correspondent, changed his stance on the prohibition of cannabis while investigating its powerful therapeutic properties and witnessing CBD successfully treat Americans. He shocked mainstream America, saying, "We have been terribly and systematically misled for nearly 70 years in the United States, and I apologize for my role in that." Through Dr. Gupta's review of the history of cannabis, He found that it has been a legitimate medicine for at least 3,000 years. And Dr. Gupta isn't alone in supporting cannabis research. The director of the National Institute on Drug Abuse, Dr. Nora Volkov, testified before the Senate saying that CBD appears to be a safe drug with no addictive effects, and the preliminary data suggests that it may have therapeutic value for a number of medical conditions. Research has shown that CBD can influence many conditions and bodily functions, including inflammation, neuropathic pain, autoimmune disease, energy regulation, metabolism, reproductive function, appetite, depression, anxiety, and even cancer. But how can one cannabinoid affect so many bodily processes without causing adverse side effects? The answer lies in our biochemistry, the natural intelligence of the body. We have naturally occurring cannabinoid receptors all over our body that interact with CBD. We have these receptors because our body is constantly making its own cannabinoids. These receptors and cannabinoids make up most of our endocannabinoid system, or ECS. Our ECS is always in action, and if functioning properly, is a major factor in keeping us healthy. Many doctors now think that some people suffer from an endocannabinoid imbalance, known as clinical endocannabinoid deficiency, or CED. People suffering from CED may benefit by supplementing with cannabinoids such as CBD. CBD is the most abundant cannabinoid in hemp, a cannabis crop the federal government allowed individual states to legalize in the 2014 Farm Bill. Hemp-derived CBD is legal in all 50 states, is non-addictive, does not cause a high, and is easy to incorporate into your current health routine.
So obviously it's a little more complicated than it's made out to be. Interesting study from 2005 from the Journal of the American Osteopathic Association does show that things like chiropractic adjustments can enhance the uptake of cannabidiol. It can also help your body make its own natural anandamide, which is our own internal feel-good endocannabinoid. So if you've ever felt really, really good after an adjustment, this is the system I'm talking about. This study also shows why a lot of the effects we get from chiropractic happen. It's not just a neurologic effect, it's an endocannabinoid effect. And for those of you that are exercising, and I do encourage you to do that, intense exercise can also stimulate the release of natural endocannabinoids. So get out there and move, and the intensity of the exercise does count. So a quick breakdown of all the different compounds found in cannabis in general, and focusing down on CBD because you can use cannabis sativa, which has no psychoactive compounds in it. So any CBD product that you purchase in public will have these types of benefits associated with it. The key is you've got to be able to get enough of the CBD from the product you're taking per dose. And so the current literature shows that we should be looking for about 25 to 30 milligrams of CBD per dose. We have to make sure that the CBD is coming from hemp that was grown organic. That organic hemp must have been processed through a CO2 processing or carbon dioxide extraction. That way you limit all the things you don't want. One of the problems with hemp is you have to use a lot of pesticides to keep the bugs off it. And you don't want to concentrate those pesticides and take them orally. They lead to many unwanted disease states. And the other problem with CBD is it is fat-based. It's fat-soluble. So if you don't digest fat well, you're going to need support doing that. Keep that in mind. And if you don't detoxify very well, let's say drugs just don't work normally on you, this enzyme explains why. So at the end of the day, you're seeing enough chemistry to validate that this stuff actually works. There's a lot of research going on, and it could help the next generation of people who have to put up with this world, our 24-hour world where we're checking emails and social media 24 hours a day. I do encourage you to do medical research online. Feel free to use the website pubmed.org. You can also go to Science Daily. But I want to give you a quick lecture from one of my herbal colleagues on how echinacea, the plant echinacea, which you've been using for your immune system, also interacts with this system. So let's take a look at that.
So I've already introduced you to the endocannabinoid system, and we've looked at it within the HPA axis category. So echinacea, the new understanding of echinacea is that it's involved in regulation of proper endocannabinoid system function. And as we can see, the immune system, the nervous system, and the HPA axis are all intimately associated with each other, and we're all familiar with the hormonal and the nervous system arrangements within those systems. But the new discovery is that the endocannabinoid system is a homeostatic regulator of the interaction between the immune, nervous, HPA axis and also the brain. And the concept of psychoneuroimmunology encompasses this concept as well. So echinacea's likely to not be the only Western herb that plays a role in this, and the science is very rapidly developing. Cannabis is obviously the primary herb, which has quite profound effects. But echinacea is quite unique in the way that it can balance and fine-tune the endocannabinoid system. So echinacea taken on a regular basis makes you feel better, and it improves the strength and health and the robustness of your immune system. But it's very likely to be interacting with all of the things that are involved within the endocannabinoid system. We just don't fully understand the connections yet. And then the endocannabinoid system targets, so they were the systems. So echinacea might be having a broad range of effects across many systems that is quite subtle, that we don't fully understand. The thing that we understand the most is its effect on the immune system. So this is just going over some of the ground from the HPA axis module just to set the scene. So we've got endocannabinoids, anandamide and 2-arachidonylglycerol. They've got receptors. There's some G protein receptors that are involved as well. We have got the degrading enzymes, the fatty acid amide hydrolase, and the echinacea alkylamides, the monoenes, have the ability to inhibit the fatty acid amide hydrolase. And when we're stressed, or our immune systems are under threat, the fatty acid amide hydrolase can increase, and that removes the anandamide, which reduces the feedback. So those signals through the TLR receptors that I talked about, under a stressful situation where there's higher levels of fatty acid amide hydrolase, those signals going through to nuclear factor kappa B and to mount immune responses, they don't get dampened down, they get amplified, so you get a more exaggerated immune response, because the body thinks it's under threat and stress, and it needs to be more protected. So echinacea plays probably a moderating role in keeping everything calm and functioning optimally, so that it can mount. And that's not the only thing that it's doing. It's also improving the way that phagocytes can go out and get rid of those threats. So it's creating a calming influence that allows a stronger, more accurate response to a threat. So the way that echinacea then, more broadly interacts with the endocannabinoid system, some of the alkylamides mimic endocannabinoids, particularly the anandamide. They strongly bind in.
So if that didn't lose you, I'm not surprised. The key here is the alkylamides from echinacea, and the only company that we work with that can guarantee and validate and quantify how many milligrams of these things are in their echinacea is MediHerb. So that's why we use the MediHerb Echinacea Premium. But it mimics an andamide, which is what people are getting from CB2. So if you're interested in using something like CBD oil, or you currently are looking at using recreational marijuana now that it will be legal December 6th, I would highly recommend that you also consider using Echinacea, the premium from MediHerb, at 1 to 2 tabs a day to support your brain so you don't have to rely on stronger types of plants. The literature on this topic is astronomical and getting better every day. Just a few studies that I've quoted here. Lots to play with, but if you have any questions, feel free to ask us at the office. Any one of our doctors can answer questions on this topic now. And remember, after December 6th, we have to have this discussion about what it does to your brain, how safe is it, so on and so forth. And we'll have some exciting announcements about all this in the new year.